I was in the kitchen, pouring myself a cup of coffee, when my phone buzzed. I didn't rush to check it. I thought maybe it was another sale alert or a forwarded meme from Zara. But when I finally picked it up, I saw his name on the screen. Daniel. Just one message. You are not coming with us to Europe. My mother prefers this vacation to be a family vacation only. I froze. I must have read it 10 times. Not coming with them? I looked around the room at the 3 neatly packed suitcases by the front door, one of them mine. I'd spent the past 2 weeks helping Daniel plan this trip, booking the hotels, organizing tours, even reminding him to get his mother's favorite spa booked in advance. And now I'm not invited? I sat down on the edge of the couch, my phone still in my hand. My fingers felt numb. The silence in the house grew louder, pressing against my ears. I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe he sent it to the wrong person. Maybe it was a joke. But no follow-up came. Nothing. Just that one cold line. Not coming with us? Family vacation only. So that's what I am now? Not family? My mind went into overdrive. I started thinking about all the things I'd done for Daniel. I remembered standing in our garage 3 years ago, watching him break down because his startup was failing. He thought it was all over, years of effort, gone. And I had stepped in, without hesitation. I had taken the $700,000 my father left me when he passed and wired it straight to Daniel's account. I didn't ask for a contract. I didn't ask for shares. I just believed in him, because that's what you do for family. But apparently I wasn't his. I stood up and walked into his office. Everything in there had been bought with the money I gave him. The custom leather chairs, the framed map of the world with pins on all his business trip destinations, even the espresso machine he loved bragging about. Every inch of it whispered, "Sophie built this." And now I was being told to stay behind like some forgotten assistant. I opened our group chat with his mom and his sister. Sure enough, messages had been flying around for days, photos of packed bags, nail appointment selfies, jokes about matching outfits. Not once had they mentioned anything about me not coming. They just acted like I never existed. And Daniel? He didn't even have the decency to speak to me in person. Just a text message. I set my phone down and walked upstairs. Our bedroom was spotless. I had even laid out his passport and tickets on the dresser last night, for both of us. Stupid me. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the carpet. For a while, I didn't cry. I just sat there, feeling everything and nothing at the same time. My heart was heavy, like it was sitting in a bucket of wet cement. Then, slowly, something inside me shifted. I started thinking about everything I had given up. My dream of starting a bakery? Gone. I had put that money into Daniel's dream instead. My weekends? Spent working on his marketing plan. My voice? Pushed aside every time his mother made a snide comment and he told me to just ignore it. And now they were flying off to Europe without me, to my dream vacation, while I sat here like a maid they forgot to fire. No, I wasn't going to cry. I stood up and looked at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were dry, but there was something else in them, a quiet storm building. If I wasn't family enough to go on this trip, then maybe I wasn't family enough to keep helping them live in comfort either. Maybe it was time I reminded Daniel who built this house, and what happens when the builder walks away. I wish I could say the text was the first red flag, but deep down, it wasn't. The truth is, the cracks had been forming for a while. I just kept ignoring them, hoping if I smiled hard enough, cooked enough dinners, or stayed out of the way, things would smooth themselves over. But that trip, that Europe trip, that was my idea. I had brought it up 6 months ago. A surprise vacation for Daniel after his business hit a new milestone. He'd worked hard, and I thought we both deserved something special. a reward for everything we'd sacrificed. At first, he was excited. We talked about Italy, Greece, and maybe even a stop in France. I remember the way his eyes lit up when I said we could ride a gondola in Venice. I imagined us walking cobbled streets, eating fresh pastries, laughing like we used to. And then his mother found out. At first, it was just subtle. "Oh, that sounds lovely. I've always wanted to see the Amalfi Coast," she said during a family dinner. I didn't mind. I even suggested we invite her. Then came his sister. Same thing. Soon, the trip I had planned for 2 became a group tour for 5, then 6. Suddenly, I was being asked to move my schedule around to make it easier for everyone else. I was told not to book the hotels yet, that Evelyn, Daniel's mom, had better taste. Every decision started to go through her. And Daniel? He said nothing. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself it was just a vacation, that it didn't matter who picked the hotel or the flight. I told myself I'd still have fun because I'd be with my husband. But things only got worse. I started getting left out of conversations. They made a new group chat, and I wasn't added to it. Zara showed me screenshots that Daniel's sister accidentally sent her. Dinner plans being made for the family, spa days booked, excursions scheduled, all without me. I asked Daniel about it once. He shrugged and said, "It's just easier to plan without too many voices." Too many voices? I was the one who started the whole idea. Still, I bit my tongue. I didn't want to cause drama. I didn't want to give Evelyn more reasons to say I was being overly sensitive. I told myself once we were on the trip, things would feel better. But deep down, I started noticing the pattern. Evelyn never liked me. From the day I married Daniel, she treated me like I had stolen something from her, like I wasn't good enough for her precious boy. Too independent, too opinionated. She once told me, to my face, that I wasn't the kind of woman who makes a man feel needed. Daniel laughed when she said it. Laughed. And now, here we were, me sitting at home with my passport and suitcase ready. Them on a plane to Europe, sipping champagne and smiling for the camera. I wasn't invited because Evelyn didn't want me there. That's the truth. And Daniel, the man I gave everything to, didn't fight for me. He didn't even tell me to my face. He just sent a message and walked out the door. That was the moment I stopped pretending. The moment I stopped defending their behavior in my head. The moment I saw it all for what it really was. They never saw me as part of the family. I was a wallet, a helper, a background character in their perfect little play. But not anymore. If they could go halfway around the world and forget me like I was nothing, then I could remind them just how much I mattered. The morning after they left for Europe, I didn't cry. I didn't sleep much either. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that had led to this moment. The trip, the text, the years I gave away like candy, just trying to prove I was enough for people who never really saw me. By sunrise, I was done feeling sorry for myself. I got up, made a cup of tea, and sat at the dining table with my laptop. I typed in the name of the law firm that handled Daniel's business incorporation 3 years ago. I remembered because I was the one who found them. I even paid the consultation fee. When Daniel's business was on the verge of collapsing, I stepped in with $700,000, the full inheritance from my father, every single penny. He was desperate. Banks had rejected his loan. He was behind on payroll. His lease was about to be terminated. He was drowning. And I saved him. I wired the money to him that very night, no questions asked, no prenup, no agreement, just trust. But sitting there in the quiet that morning, I realized something terrifying. I never signed anything. No partnership agreement, no loan terms, no ownership papers. It was all verbal. I had always told myself it didn't matter. We were husband and wife. What's his is mine. What's mine is his. But now? That thought made my stomach turn. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer Zara had used during her divorce. Her name was Nina. sharp, smart, and the kind of woman who doesn't blink twice when someone says betrayal. I sat across from her in a glass office downtown. She took one look at the folder I brought with transaction records, emails, and screenshots and asked gently, "Do you want to fight for ownership, or are you ready to burn it down?" I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know yet. I just knew I wasn't going to be silent anymore. Nina flipped through the documents and nodded. "You're not listed anywhere in the business structure, not as a partner, not as an investor, not even as a consultant." I felt a sting in my chest, like being told I was invisible. Again. She continued, "But he never protected his assets properly. His business is vulnerable. The name is his, but a lot of the paperwork, especially the leases and vendor accounts, are still in your name. That gives you leverage." That word, leverage. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of power return to my spine. Nina laid out my options. I could sue. I could file a marital claim. Or I could act while he was abroad, while he was distracted. I could quietly begin the process of pulling my name, my access, and my support from the structure. "You gave him $700,000, she said. "You gave him a brand, a platform, and a business that is now worth at least triple that. You didn't lose it, you just never collected your receipt." I left the office with a new fire in my chest. Daniel thought I was too soft, too quiet to ever push back. Evelyn thought I was too polite to ever draw a line. They were both wrong. That night, I pulled up our financials. I had access to all the books because, surprise, I was still listed as the primary contact on most of the accounts. Daniel never bothered to change it. He was too busy enjoying the lifestyle. Luxury cars, designer suits, first-class flights, all funded by me. And now? I was done being the unpaid engine behind his success. If they could wipe me from their vacation, then I could wipe myself from their foundation and take a few bricks with me. The beauty of being underestimated is that people never see you coming. While Daniel and Evelyn were off sipping rosé on some balcony in Santorini, I got to work. No tears, no phone calls, just action. I started with the office lease. Daniel's business was based in a trendy co-working building downtown, and when we first signed the lease, I used my name and credit to secure it. Back then, his credit was awful, and the landlord insisted I co-sign. I didn't think twice. I just wanted him to succeed. But now that decision gave me power. I called the building manager, introduced myself, and casually asked when the lease renewal was due. The man told me it had already auto-renewed. Under my name. Perfect. Next, I contacted the accountant Daniel used. I introduced myself as Sophie, Daniel's wife, and explained that I was just reviewing things while he was away. It's amazing what people will hand over when you sound polite and in control. Bank accounts, vendor contracts, digital assets. So much of it was still tied to me. Daniel had been so caught up in his fancy lifestyle, he never tied up the loose ends, and now I was holding all of them. Still, I didn't want to cause chaos. Not yet. I wanted a plan that would leave no room for argument. One that would show him, clearly and legally, what happens when you erase someone who built you. That's where Zara came in. She showed up at my house with 2 iced coffees and her laptop, wearing a t-shirt that said, "Plotting in progress." We sat at the dining table like 2 women on a mission. Zara handled the business side. She found a broker who could help evaluate and quietly sell off assets. She helped me freeze any company card I was attached to. And she suggested something I hadn't even considered. Why not rent the house? At first, I blinked. Our house? She nodded. It's yours too. And while he's gone, you can legally lease it short-term. Make a little money, clean the energy, maybe even throw a party. I laughed, until I realized she was serious, so we listed it. I posted professional photos, cleaned everything up, and put it on a luxury vacation rental site. I set the calendar for 1 week only. The exact dates Daniel and his family were scheduled to return. Within 2 days, it was booked. A group of young tech entrepreneurs from out of state. They paid extra for full use of the home, including the backyard, the grill, and the Bluetooth sound system. They even requested a fridge full of champagne. I said yes to everything. Meanwhile, I was still working with Nina, my lawyer. She filed paperwork to separate my name from Daniel's business debts while quietly redirecting my remaining share of the assets. I was done being his silent investor. From now on, I'd rather watch it all go up in smoke than sit in the shadows. And all the while, Daniel kept posting pictures, smiling with Evelyn, matching linen outfits, wine tastings, sunset views. Not one message to me, not even a check-in. They thought I was home knitting or crying or scrolling through their pictures in a puddle of self-pity. But I wasn't. I was preparing the stage. Every corner of our life that I had helped build. I was slowly and carefully untangling myself from it, taking back what was mine, not with fire, not with screaming, just quiet, careful steps. So when they finally came home, they would walk into something that looked like our house, but no longer belonged to them. And then they'd realize what it feels like to be erased. It all came together faster than I expected. By the 5th day of their trip, every piece was in motion. The business broker had already found 2 interested buyers for Daniel's company, one local investor and one corporate travel group. Both had made offers. I accepted the higher one. That morning, I signed the final transfer documents and watched as the buyer's wire came through. Just like that, the business Daniel once begged me to save was no longer his. And the best part? He had no clue. I didn't tell him. I didn't warn him. I didn't even leave a note. Because if he could text me that I wasn't part of the family, then he didn't deserve explanations. He deserved silence. The same silence he gave me when they boarded that plane. But the business was only half the plan. The house. That was the fun part. Zara and I spent the entire afternoon prepping it. The young tech guys who rented it were already in town, and one of them messaged me asking if it was okay to invite a few people over. I smiled at the screen and typed, "Sure, go all out. It's your home for the week." They took that literally. By 7 p.m., music echoed through the neighborhood. Colored lights flickered through the windows. Cars lined the street, and someone brought in a karaoke machine. Zara and I watched from across the street in her car, sipping cold sodas like undercover agents. "Are you nervous?" she asked. I shook my head. I'm done being nervous. Inside the house, strangers danced in the living room. The same living room Evelyn once told me I decorated like a middle-class hotel. A girl in glitter heels stood exactly where Daniel had once told me to lower my voice in front of his mother. I watched 2 people take selfies in the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd cooked 3-course meals for people who never once said thank you. Now it belonged to someone else. And not one thing was broken. Nothing was trashed. It was just full of life, energy, joy, everything it hadn't had in years. As the night went on, I walked across the street, stepped into the front yard, and smiled at the music pouring from my former home. One of the renters, Kenny, the guy who booked it, waved at me from the porch. "You, Sophie?" he asked. "I am." "Place is amazing. You sure you don't mind the party?" "Not at all," I said. "I think it's exactly what this house needed." He grinned. "You're welcome to join." I smiled, thanked him, and stepped back onto the sidewalk. No need. I didn't need to be in the middle of the crowd. I had already won. Later that night, I got one final alert on my phone. Daniel used my credit card. Again. A private driver in Prague. Cost? $540. I logged into the bank app and hit disable. Then I scrolled through and closed every account tied to my name. Credit cards, subscriptions, cell phone line. Gone. I stood outside, took one deep breath, and looked at the house. The people inside had no idea who Daniel or Evelyn were. They didn't care. That was the point. This was no longer their world. It wasn't mine either. Not anymore. It was just a beautiful, empty shell that I had finally stopped filling for other people. They came back 2 days early. I wasn't expecting that. Daniel's sister posted something on Instagram about a canceled return flight. Within hours, they'd rebooked and were headed home. But it didn't matter. The house was still rented. And the business? Long gone. Selling the business had been easier than I imagined. You see, Daniel never formalized the ownership structure. He always talked big, called himself CEO, posted leadership quotes, wore expensive suits, but legally, the business was a mess. He had formed the company using a basic LLC, and though the name was under his, the accounts, lease agreements, vendor contracts, and digital platforms were all under my name. Because in the beginning, he had no credit, no reputation, no funding. Just my money, my resources, my trust. So when my lawyer Nina reviewed everything, she smiled and said, "Technically, you own most of the operational structure. If you pull out, it collapses." And that's exactly what I did. I contacted the corporate travel firm Nina introduced me to. They'd been looking to expand into Daniel's niche, luxury travel concierge, and were eager to acquire everything: the client list, website, booking systems, vendor relationships, all of it. I made one simple offer: buy the whole system, leave the name, take the engine. The offer came fast. I signed the deal under my own name. Payment was wired into my personal account, and a clause was added to block Daniel from using any of the company's client contacts for future ventures. Everything he had built using me now belonged to someone else. Legally, quietly, completely. By the time their plane landed, Daniel's email accounts were locked, his business number rerouted, and the company website redirected to the buyer's corporate page. So when they pulled up to the driveway and found strangers partying in our living room, I was already waiting. Zara stood beside me, holding a cup of iced coffee like it was popcorn. Daniel stepped out of the black SUV first, looking tired, tanned, and smug. Evelyn followed, wearing a silk travel set and sunglasses even though it was nearly 8 p.m. The moment Daniel saw the people dancing on the front porch, his jaw dropped. "What the hell is this?" he snapped, storming up the steps. One of the renters looked at him. "Can I help you?" "This is my house." The guy frowned. No, it's rented. For the week. From someone named Sophie." Daniel turned and saw me standing calmly by the sidewalk. "Sophie?" he said, voice rising. "What's going on?" Evelyn rushed past him, heels clicking on the pavement. "Why are there strangers in our home?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I simply pulled a folder from my bag and handed it to Daniel. He snatched it, flipping through the pages, eyes darting across the legal language. The more he read, the paler he got. "These are business transfer papers," he said, stunned. "Yes," I replied. "The business is sold. The money is in my account." "You can't do that. That company is mine." "No, Daniel," I said, steady as stone. "You never made it official. I owned the leases, the systems, the vendors. You were the face, but I was the foundation." He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "You excluded me from your life, your family, your vacation. And now you're learning what happens when you exclude the person who built everything." Evelyn let out a dramatic gasp. "You're punishing him for a misunderstanding? This is cruel." I turned to her. "No, Evelyn. What was cruel was pretending I wasn't family after everything I gave up to support your son." She looked ready to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. I handed Daniel one more piece of paper. "This is the rental agreement. The house is legally leased for the next 4 days. You are not allowed inside." He blinked. "You're kicking us out?" "No, I'm just giving you what you wanted," I said. "A vacation with your family, without me." Then I turned around, took Zara's arm, and walked away. Behind me, the music played louder, and Daniel stood frozen, holding paperwork that told him everything he had was gone. It's funny how fast people change their tone when they realize you're no longer under their control. The day after Daniel came home to find strangers partying in the house, he called me 6 times. I didn't answer. The seventh time, he left a voicemail. His voice was shaking, not angry, begging. "Sophie, please, we need to talk. Just us. Can we fix this?" Fix what, exactly? The marriage? The business he forgot was built on my back? The lie he told when he said his mother wanted a family-only vacation, as if I wasn't the woman who stood beside him when he had nothing? No. Some things break so quietly you don't even hear the snap until it's too late. I gave him more than money. I gave him my loyalty, my silence, my weekends, my identity. And he repaid me with a single sentence. "You are not coming. My mother wants it to be family only." That sentence kept echoing in my head. So I gave them what they wanted, a family vacation without me. And when they came back, I showed them what that really meant. I met with my lawyer again that week and filed for separation. Not out of spite, but because I was done. Done shrinking. Done forgiving without change. Done holding up the life they claimed as theirs while I was pushed further and further out of the frame. Daniel tried everything. He sent flowers, left long, teary voicemails, even begged Zara to talk some sense into me. But Zara, she just told him the truth. "You kicked out the one person who built the house, and now you're locked outside." When the rental period ended, I didn't move back in. I had already signed a short-term lease on a beautiful high-rise apartment downtown. Big windows, quiet mornings, my own space for the first time in years. The house? I put it back on the rental market. Premium rates only. Long weekends booked months in advance. I used the proceeds to finally open that bakery I had always dreamed of. It wasn't fancy, just a cozy little spot tucked on a corner street. I named it Sophie's Place. People came in for the pastries, but they stayed for the peace. One afternoon, while decorating the display case, I got a text from Zara. It was a photo. Daniel and Evelyn standing outside the house, suitcases by their feet. The caption? "Looks like someone forgot to book a hotel. Again." I smiled. They still didn't get it. This wasn't revenge. This was clarity. This was me stepping out of the role they boxed me into. The helper, the nice one, the invisible one. Now, I wasn't invisible. I was gone. A week later, Daniel showed up at my bakery. He looked different, tired, thinner, nervous. He stood across the counter like a stranger. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he said quietly. I thought you'd always be there." I nodded. "That's the thing, Daniel. I was always there, until you made it clear I wasn't wanted." He swallowed hard. "Can we ever go back?" I looked around at the shelves of fresh-baked bread, the soft music playing, the customers smiling. "No," I said gently, "but I'm not angry anymore. I'm just free." He didn't argue. He just stood there for a few more seconds, then turned and left. Zara walked in right after. She caught the end of it and grinned. "You okay?" I nodded. For the first time in a long time. We sat by the window, two old friends sharing quiet joy. I used to think losing everything would destroy me. But the truth is, walking away from people who never saw your worth, that's when you start to live.